Welcome to the Deep Dive, the show where we take your sources and really try to unearth the most profound nuggets of knowledge. Today we're embarking on a journey into a text that's truly ancient yet, well, incredibly relevant today. Our focus for this deep dive is Thich Nhat Hanh's Transformation and Healing, the Sutra on the Four Establishments of Mindfulness. We're looking at excerpts from the Sutra itself and his really rich commentary. Think of this as your shortcut, maybe, to understanding a foundational Buddhist teaching, one that promises, well, purification, release from suffering, and ultimately a path to liberation and nirvana.
Indeed. And these aren't just, historical documents or philosophical ideas to bat around. This is presented as a practical guide. It's been refined over, 2,500 years, offering concrete methods for really profound inner transformation. What's truly fascinating, I think, is how these ancient teachings remain so pertinent, so helpful for navigating the complexities of modern life.
All right, so we're going to unpack what the Buddha called a most wonderful way to help living beings. This deep dive is all about understanding these four establishments of mindfulness. Mindfulness of the body, of the feelings, of the mind, and of the objects of the mind. So, yeah, let's get started.
Okay, let's unpack this first part. The sutra opens by introducing what it calls a most wonderful way. A way to help beings realize purification, overcome grief and pain and anxiety, travel the right path, and realize nirvana. What exactly is this most wonderful way it mentions right at the start?
So this most wonderful way is what's known as the four establishments of mindfulness. The original teachings, both in Pali and Chinese, consistently emphasize it as the one way to practice, highlighting its singular importance. Essentially, it's presented as a direct path, a path to awakening without diversions. And these four are the observation of the body in the body, feelings in the feelings, mind in the mind, and objects of mind in the objects of mind. That phrasing, observing the body in the body, it sounds a little circular maybe. What does it really mean to observe something in itself?
Ugh, yeah, that phrasing. It signifies a really deep, non-dualistic kind of engagement. It's not about stepping back and looking at your body or your feelings like there's separate objects over there. Instead, it's about penetrating the object of observation, becoming one with it, experiencing it from within with full presence. It's about being diligent, having clear understanding, being mindful, and abandoning craving and distaste for this life. This whole approach, it's what ensures authentic insight, real transformation.
Okay, so let's start where the sutra does then, with the body.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how do we actually begin observing the body in the body?
Well, the practice begins quite simply, actually, with conscious breathing. You just become fully aware of your in-breath and your out-breath. Whether it's long or short, doesn't matter at first. Then it expands. You become aware of your whole body as you breathe, and you consciously use the breath to calm your body.
That sounds straightforward. Simple, even. But what kind of real impact can something like that have? I mean, are there common pitfalls people run into?
Oh, the effects are profound because it's so simple, in a way. This practice, it helps you return to yourself. You make direct contact with life in the present moment, which is, well, it's the only moment life is actually happening, right? It's described as a miraculous way to untie those knots of regret about the past or anxiety about the future. You become one with your breath, restoring that oneness of body and mind. And that leads to peace, joy, ease. You can even use a simple gatha, like a short verse, to help. Breathing in, I calm my body. Breathing out, I smile. Dwelling in the present moment, I know this is a wonderful moment. I think the biggest pitfall really is just underestimating it because it's simple. Or, letting the mind wander off without gently bringing it back.
Right. So it's not just something you do when you're sitting formally on a cushion then.
Not at all. No, the sutra really emphasizes applying this mindfulness to all bodily positions, walking, standing, sitting, lying down, and all actions too, from going forward or backward to eating, drinking, even being silent. You just shine your awareness on it. And this is meant to make everyday actions more harmonious, graceful. It transforms them into a path of practice.
And the sutra takes us even deeper into the body, doesn't it? It talks about meditating on the different parts.
Yes, it does. It guides you to scan your body deeply, from the soles of your feet right up to the hair on your head, observing all the parts like kidneys, heart, lungs, everything. But the purpose isn't just, anatomical study. It's about fostering deeper contact, familiarizing yourself with your body, making peace with it. The Buddha used this analogy like a skilled person opening a sack of mixed grains and just reviewing each type, one by one. Each part, when you observe it deeply, can be a door to liberation. It shows its interdependent nature.
Interdependence. That seems like a huge theme running through all of this. How does the body specifically show that?
Oh, it's absolutely central. The practice extends to recognizing the four great elements, earth, water, fire, air, within your own body. Some versions even add space and consciousness. You start to realize your body is profoundly interconnected with the entire universe. It's not separate, like your body is mostly water, right? Well, without clouds, there's no rain. No rain, no food, no food, no you. The insight here is pretty radical, really. Your very existence isn't isolated. Every breath, every cell, it's a direct manifestation of the whole cosmos. It kind of demolishes the idea of a separate you. It reveals your inherent connectedness. This is what Thich Nhat Hanh calls interbeing.
Wow. Okay. Now, maybe the most striking practice in this section is the contemplation of a corpse. That sounds, well, pretty intense. What's the purpose behind something so confronting?
It is intense, no doubt. The sutra describes 9 stages of decomposition, from bloating right down to dust. But the intention isn't to make you pessimistic or, disgusted with life. Not at all. Actually, it's the opposite. By deeply seeing the impermanent nature of the body, you come to appreciate how truly precious life is right now. In this moment, he uses the analogy of watching a serious cactus flower. It opens and fades in just hours. Recognizing its impermanence lets you value its beauty, its fragrance so much more deeply, without clinging or sorrow when it inevitably disappears. It teaches you to live lightly, freshly, free from attachments, able to fully inhabit this moment.
Okay, so for you, our listener, this part of the deep dive isn't about denying the body or trying to escape it, but really understanding its true nature.
Precisely. It's about realizing impermanence, selflessness, and interdependent origination. These are the 3 fundamental observations or seals of Buddhism. The sutra makes it pretty clear that the root of suffering isn't life itself, or even, the components of life, the aggregates. It's our lack of understanding of their impermanent and interdependent nature. That's the key. The Buddha himself, he deeply appreciated the beauty of nature around him. He showed that freedom isn't about running away from things. It's about facing them with deep understanding.
Okay, so we've explored the body. Now, moving on to our feelings,
Hmm.
that seems like an even more intricate challenge for mindfulness. How does the sutra guide us here?
Right, feelings. Well, the practice of mindfulness of feeling starts simply, too. Just identifying them. Pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. That's the first step. When a feeling arises, you just acknowledge it. Like breathing in, I know an unpleasant feeling has arisen within me. Breathing out, I know this unpleasant feeling is present in me. You don't rush to chase it away, but you also don't get drowned in it. It's this attitude of letting go, which is crucial in meditation. Think of your feelings like a river, constantly flowing. You just sit on the bank and observe each drop, each feeling as it appears, stays for a bit, and then fades away.
And then do we go deeper to understand where they come from? How does that
Okay.
work for something as immediate as a feeling?
Yes, exactly. The next step is seeing the roots of these feelings. Are they physical, physiological, psychological? The sutra gives a really powerful example, actually, with substances like whiskey or cigarettes. A pleasant feeling you might get from them can be traced to physiological roots, sure, and psychological ones, but also to societal habits, conditioning. You might look into, say, a glass of whiskey and see not just the drink, but the grains used to make it, the potential for accidents it might cause, maybe even the global issue of food scarcity connected to grain production. This deep observation, it reveals how seemingly simple feelings are actually interconnected with these vast, complex systems. It really connects the dots between your inner world and the outer world.
Wow, that's a real aha moment there. Seeing the whole world reflected in just one feeling. It also seems to touch on how we often overlook simple everyday happiness.
It really does. We often search for happiness, somewhere out there or in the future, and we miss the profound joy that's already here in the everyday conditions we possess. Just the ability to breathe freely, to see colors, to have healthy limbs, to be with family or friends. These are immense sources of happiness, but often we only appreciate them when they're lost, right? Mindfulness helps us shine a light on these conditions that are present right now, making their presence a source of genuine joy. It is, in essence, the foundational ingredient for happiness, as the text says. If you do not know that you are happy, it means that you are not happy. It needs that awareness.
What about the more difficult feelings, though, like anger? The source material talks about methods to transform it, not just suppress it. How does that transformation actually happen?
Ah, yes, anger. This is such a critical teaching. Anger is seen as an energy, a powerful one. So instead of repressing it, which is kind of like repressing a part of yourself, isn't it? You sponsor it with mindfulness. You accept it. You acknowledge it's there, knowing it's an energy that can be transformed. The Buddha used the analogy of garbage. Garbage can be transformed into beautiful roses or fragrant compost, right? It's not inherently bad. It's just raw material. So when you mindfully observe anger, just watch it without judgment, it starts to lose its destructive power. And you can begin to see its roots. Maybe misunderstanding, clumsiness, yours or someone else's, societal conditioning, hidden resentment from the past. This understanding itself leads towards love and compassion. It transforms that destructive energy into a potentially healing one.
So it's really about facing it directly, not trying to push it away or ignore it.
Exactly. You come back to your conscious breathing, center yourself, and you sponsor your anger. Like a mother tenderly holding a crying child. You don't reject the child, you hold it. There's another great analogy in the text, cooking potatoes. Concentration is like the pot's lid, keeping the energy contained. Mindfulness is the fire underneath. You contain the anger gently and apply the heat of steady awareness. And that allows it to cook, to transform. This approach teaches you how to manage difficult emotions without causing harm to yourself or others. And that leads to a much more lasting peace.
Okay, so body, feelings. Now, what does this all mean for our minds themselves and the very objects of our thoughts? This feels like it goes into even deeper, maybe more subtle territory.
It does, yes. The third establishment is mindfulness of the mind itself, observing its states directly. This means being aware if your mind is, say, desiring or not desiring, hating or not hating. If it's in a state of ignorance or clarity, it extends to noticing whether your mind feels collected, focused, or scattered and distracted, composed or maybe agitated, free or caught up in something.
And this section on mindfulness of mind seems to challenge some common ideas about what happiness really means. What are some of the key distinctions the sutra makes between just wanting things, desire, and true happiness?
It makes a very critical discussion, yes. The commentary brings up this really powerful example from the Magandiya Sutra. It's about a leper who finds some temporary relief, some sensation, by burning himself near a fire. The Buddha explained that desire is often like this hole of dorm charcoal. It might offer some fleeting relief, maybe even intense sensation, but it doesn't lead to lasting happiness or peace. It just burns. True happiness, he taught, comes from a different place, often from a life with fewer desires, fewer possessions maybe, and having enough time and space to actually appreciate the wonders around us and within us. There's the story of monk Bhattiya, who apparently found immense joy and fearlessness after leaving his former life as a wealthy governor for a simple monastic life. It really illustrates this point. So desirelessness in this context isn't about apathy. It's seen as a wholesome mental formation, the very basis for real peace, joy, and ease.
Okay, then we move to the fourth establishment, objects of the mind. What exactly are objects of mind or dharmas in this context? It sounds quite encompassing.
It is very encompassing. Dharmas basically refers to everything that can be conceived as existing. All phenomena, psychological, physiological, physical, everything you can think of or perceive. This section introduces what's called discriminative investigation, looking deeply into things. It includes observing the six sense organs, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, mind, their objects, sights, sounds, smells, tastes, touches, thoughts, and the consciousness that arises when they meet. That's 18 realms in total, which are said to contain all possible phenomena we experience.
And a core principle here, again, seems to be interdependence, right? How does that idea of interbeing manifest when we look at the objects of mind?
Precisely. It's fundamental. The Buddha taught, this is because that is. This is not because that is not. Nothing exists independently in isolation. Take a simple leaf, the example often used. If you look deeply into the leaf, you don't just see leaf. You see the sun, the water, the earth, the clouds, the farmer. Everything that was needed for that leaf to exist is in the leaf. That's the principle of interbeing, or interpenetration. Realizing this profound interdependence helps you transcend those rigid dualistic concepts like birth and death, self and other, and it helps you understand the essential emptiness of all things, which doesn't mean nothingness, but rather that things are empty of a separate, independent, unchanging self or existence.
That perspective definitely sounds liberating. The source mentions the layman Anathapindika's quite emotional reaction to hearing this teaching. What was it about this insight that moved him so deeply?
Yes, Anathapindika. He was a longtime supporter of the Buddha, very devoted, and he wept when he heard the teaching that these eyes are not me, I am not caught in these eyes. and extending that to all the senses, all thoughts. It seems to have been this deep, visceral breakthrough for him, realizing he wasn't confined to just these temporary elements, that there isn't a fixed self being born that will then die. And this profound insight, he realized, wasn't just for monks and nuns living in seclusion. It was available to lay practitioners like him right in the midst of life. It's this realization that you are more than just the sum of your parts, more than your fleeting sensations and thoughts.
Mm. And this leads into the concept of internal formations, or knots, doesn't it? These sound like the things that really tangle us up internally.
They really do. These are mental formations, things like desire, anger, confusion, pride, doubt, which can bind us, tie us in knots. When our eyes see a form or our ears hear a sound, these knots can form depending on how our mind processes that impression, that sense contact. For instance, if someone speaks unkindly and you misunderstand their intention, maybe a knot of hatred or confusion forms inside. Interestingly, even falling in love is described as potentially forming an internal formation because of the risk of blind attachment, clinging. The key insight here is to recognize these knots as soon as they arise, when they're still loose, so to speak, and then transform them through mindful observation and understanding rather than letting them tighten. This even becomes a shared practice in relationships. Happiness stops being just an individual matter. It depends on untying knots together.
And some of these knots can be buried really deep within us, can't they? How does mindfulness help with those deeper, maybe subconscious formations, the ones we're not even always aware of?
Absolutely. The Sutra speaks directly to transforming these repressed internal formations. Feelings like deep-seated fear or worthlessness or old regret. Things pushed down into the subconscious by our conscious mind, often through what's called forgetfulness, mushita smriti. We just try to ignore them. But these repressed feelings, they still seek ways to manifest, don't they? Often as unexplained irritability, strange dreams, maybe even destructive behaviors. There's a poignant example given of a daughter and mother, both suffering silently from unacknowledged internal conflicts, creating tension between them. Mindfulness helps bring these hidden feelings gently to the surface of awareness. It allows you to face them without judgment, without blame, just pure, compassionate observation. This compassionate sponsoring of your internal pain, holding it gently in awareness, is what allows for really deep healing.
So it's a way to work with and maybe overcome deep-seated guilt and fear then.
Exactly. Guilt, for instance. If it just leads to paralyzing self-blame, it's an obstacle, another knot. But if you use that feeling of guilt to recognize a past mistake clearly and then resolve to act differently now, in the present, it becomes wholesome. It fuels positive change. By transforming the present moment, you actually transform the meaning and impact of the past. And fear, which is often rooted in ignorance, particularly ignorance of our not-self or interdependent nature, can also be overcome. By deeply observing the no-birth, no-death nature of all phenomena, seeing that things just transform. The Bodhisattva of Avalokiteshvara's great gift is said to be non-fear, and it comes directly from this profound insight into interbeing and emptiness. Practicing mindfulness consistently, coupled with ethical trainings like right speech, right action, creates this inner sense of security and protection.
And this practice isn't just about dealing with the difficult stuff, right? It even extends to actively sowing seeds of peace. What does that mean in practical terms for our daily lives?
Yes, that's so important. Alongside identifying and transforming suffering, the Sutra strongly emphasizes cultivating the wholesome seeds already within us. Seeds of joy, peace, liberation, desirelessness, freedom. The mind is pictured like a plot of ground where both wholesome and unwholesome seeds reside. We all have both. And crucially, we have the capacity to transform the unwholesome into wholesome like composting. Even in the darkest times, the text assures us the seeds of happiness are still present within us, maybe just dormant. So we water these positive seeds through mindful living. By consciously engaging with the blue sky, the clear river, the shining eyes of a child, all the wonders of life that are available in the present moment. By doing this, we nourish our own joy, our own peace, and naturally increase our ability to share it with others. So it highlights the importance of connecting with the positive, the nourishing aspects of life. And crucially, finding a supportive community, a sangha, helps immensely with this.
Okay, this deep dive really reveals some profound underlying principles that seem to tie everything together. For you, our listener, what are some of the most essential ideas that connect all these different practices we've discussed?
Well, one of the most fundamental, I think, is the idea that dharmas are mind. Remember, dharmas are all phenomena, physical, physiological, psychological. The teaching is that these are all objects of mind and ultimately not separate from mind. So when you observe your breath or a feeling or even a tree, your mind is, in essence, observing itself, observing its own contents. It really challenges that common perception of a totally separate objective reality out there.
Which ties right into that other idea we touched on, that to observe something deeply is to become one with it, doesn't it?
Precisely. Mindfulness, in this view, isn't just an external gaze, like a scientist looking through a microscope at something separate. It penetrates. It becomes one with the object of observation, illuminating it and transforming it from within. That instruction, observing the body in the body, really points to this. The observing mind isn't just a detached observer, it's a participant, fully immersed. It's this non-dualistic approach that allows for true understanding and lasting change.
And the idea that true mind and deluded mind are one seems, well, it seems to fundamentally challenge our usual way of thinking about good and bad parts of ourselves. How can something like a deluded mind be considered part of the true mind?
It's a cornerstone of this teaching, and yes, it is quite radical compared to how we often compartmentalize. The deluded mind, characterized by forgetfulness, dispersion, reactivity, isn't seen as something to be eliminated or rejected entirely. It's actually the very raw material from which the true mind, awakened understanding, arises. That rose and garbage analogy comes back here perfectly, right? The beautiful rose needs the decomposing garbage to exist, and the garbage actually becomes the rose through transformation. So liberation isn't found by escaping the impure or illusory aspects of life. It's found by transforming them through understanding and mindfulness. Nirvana isn't some place you go to by fleeing birth and death. It arises directly from understanding birth and death right here and now. This emphasizes an attitude of no conflict with reality.
No conflict. That sounds like a really powerful way to approach our inner landscape, our experiences. What does that look like in practice, day to day?
It is powerful, and it contrasts sharply with other approaches. The Buddha himself, early on, practiced really harsh austerities, trying to violently suppress his body, his feelings, his thoughts. But he ultimately rejected that path. The practice of mindfulness taught in this sutra is deeply rooted in nonviolence and acceptance, starting with oneself. You don't bully yourself, you don't force anything. When your body signals pain or fatigue, you listen respectfully. You embrace your difficult feelings affectionately, mindfully, like that mother holding her crying child. Gently, patiently. It's this gentle, non-repressive approach, maintained through consistent mindfulness, that allows true transformation to happen organically.
So it's really not about indoctrination then, or forcing ourselves to believe certain dogmas like the body is impure or something like that. It seems more about direct experience and open inquiry.
Absolutely not about dogma. The sutra actually warns against mechanically repeating phrases like body is impure. That misses the point entirely. Instead, it encourages direct, mindful observation, letting the true nature of things, whether you perceive them as pure, impure, or maybe something transcending both concepts, reveal itself through your own direct experience. It's all about maintaining an open, receptive mind, free from rigid, fixed ideas. That's how you can truly discover interpenetration, interbeing, and the no-birth, no-death nature of reality for yourself. This depth and nuance, this emphasis on direct seeing, is likely why there are even slightly different versions of the sutra itself, reflecting its living transmission and evolving interpretations within different Buddhist traditions over centuries.
Wow, what an incredibly enlightening exploration into a text that clearly continues to shape lives thousands of years later. It's so clear that the practice of mindfulness, as taught in this sutra, isn't just for, formal meditation sessions. It's really intended for every single moment of our daily lives.
Indeed, that's the core message, I think. This deep dive really shows us that mindfulness is presented as the heart of Buddhist practice, and it's accessible to everyone, not just monks and nuns in monasteries. And it also highlights that crucial role of community, the Sangha. Having friends who also practice mindful living who can support you, gently remind you. It's like having countless little bells of mindfulness constantly bringing you back to the present moment. It makes a huge difference.
So for you, our listener, this isn't just interesting theory or ancient philosophy. It's really presented as an invitation to a path of potentially radical transformation, one that can bring more peace, more joy, more freedom, not just to yourself, but maybe to your family, your colleagues, everyone around you. It seems to point towards living a simpler life, perhaps, creating more time to truly enjoy the wonders that are already within you and all around you, and then being able to offer that joy and the alleviation of suffering to others more effectively.
And when you live your life in such an awakened way, the teaching suggests, you can approach even that ultimate transition, death, with a sense of peace. You understand perhaps that to die isn't an end, but simply to begin anew, or maybe just to continue in another form of life, a transformation, not an annihilation.
And what's truly provocative here, maybe the final thought to leave you with, is this idea that when you embody this practice, every single day transforms. It becomes, as the commentary suggests, a happy birthday, a happy continuation day. Imagine that. Imagine approaching life so fully, so mindfully, that the very concepts of beginning and end just dissolve. They transform into this continuous, potentially joyful unfolding. What would that feel like? Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.